Dave, who do you think you're kidding, huh? You suck on that first date. Do you think maybe she noticed that booger in your left nostril? Maybe when you were speaking at 40 words a minute and she prefers 38. And all those laughs you were doing, come on, it wasn't even funny. No one's laughing, so just quit now.
Yo, I'm glad you're here because I've actually got an unpopular opinion for you. Ready for this? Amplify your overthinking. It's probably not the advice you want to hear, right? And that's why you're here at this channel just like me, where anybody who's told you to stop overthinking things, getting past it, just move on, distract yourself. We know that it's easier said than done, because if it were that easy, we wouldn't be in a bind sometimes. And you just saw that little awkward moment I had there in the beginning of the video where I was caught in my own head overthinking a bit. And if you can think of some examples of funny things you've dwelled on, just drop them in the comments below. And we all have fun with that, right? It's something where we just get caught in the moment. And so it's really bizarre. I tried something new recently because I realized that, just like yourself, you've probably noticed this, right? That we always have one particular way of trying to cope with overthinking, or maybe a handful of things, and we just don't seem to get over it, because it's really ironic in that we'll expect that we can overcome it, but then we're still trying to do it the ways that we know don't work. And that's really where the subconscious can kind of take over, right? Because we have these intrusive thoughts in our head that come out of left field, and it's almost an autonomous response where we feel like we have to deal with it. And maybe we don't. Maybe it's just a random intrusive thought that has no meaning at all, but we fall into this trap, right? Of, oh, if I thought about it, that it must have some credibility. So I tried something new, and it's actually pretty damn comical, and I thought I would make a video and share it. And before I get into the list, if you like what you see here, click on that subscribe button, and also feel free to drop me a like if you enjoyed this video, and if you think anybody else might benefit from what you see here, share it with your friends. All right, so this is what I actually tried, and it's really bizarre and it's really funny at the same time. So I'm not the best at it in that I don't always automatically do it, but when I actively do it, it seems to always work for me. If I catch myself overthinking in the moment about something, I'll do this strategy of what I call amplification. What do I mean by that? Well, a lot of times in life, what it is that we're trying to avoid, we actually get more of. And you probably have seen this, right? Where we have these New Year's resolutions, or we have this rule, we're like, we're not gonna let that happen again, or I can't mess up, or whatever it might be, fill in the blank. And then you end up falling back into the same habit and getting what it is you're trying to avoid. And so the approach I took in this was, what if we actually move in the direction of what it is we're trying to avoid and take back control? And what do I mean by that? Well, the challenge with a lot of this overthinking and these looping behaviors is that we're allowing ourselves to be victimized to some part of our psyche that already happens on its own. We don't choose necessarily to generate thoughts in our brain. That's something that's autonomous and happens on its own. But what we can actually handle is the meanings that we give it, and that's super important. So what I tried was, I found myself overthinking about something, and I amplified it by almost exaggerating it in a very deliberate and obtuse way that doesn't even make sense, right? So I'll give you an example. Say you're overthinking about a presentation you did at work, and you thought that you did a horrible job and nobody really liked it. So your example here of amplification could be something like, gee, Dave, that was extremely horrible. So maybe next time you should actually do a presentation in the form of a really stupid rap. And when everybody starts laughing, just start laughing maniacally at them and then start talking about some random shit. And I would actually switch over to The Office and start talking like Dwight and make up some bullshit about how everything in your presentation is false. And it sounds really stupid, right? But even just describing this example to you right now, I'm noticing that as you're doing this, you're actually invoking what's called a pattern interrupt. So instead of being caught in that looping behavior, the mere fact that you're almost comically trying to do this other thing, it actually gets you back in control of the situation. And what'll happen is you'll notice that your state of mind will change, because now you're like, wait a minute, whatever I just made up or amplified, that seems really stupid, right? It seems like something that I wouldn't even do. And that's the point, is that it's now decoupling you from that worrying behavior, that anxious behavior, or thinking that because that thought is in your mind, you got to think about it for the next 40 or 50 minutes. And it's a really cool trick. And the three things I noticed were, one, I found it really comical. So I went from a state of worry or whatever it might be to now almost amusing myself in the moment, right? And that's one thing I like about life too, right? Is sometimes we do really stupid stuff, and if you can actually laugh at yourself in the moment, it's actually very therapeutic. And life's as hard as it is, right? You don't want to take it too seriously. The number two thing I noticed was you're going from feeling out of control to now being in control. We don't generate our thoughts consciously. We don't choose necessarily what to think, but now what you're doing is you have this environment that's in your head, and now you're taking back ownership behind the wheel, and you're saying, look, I can now run with this. I don't need to run from it, and I can give it whatever meaning I want. And then number three, what I noticed was if you really get good with this and you run away with it and come up with some really crazy story just to add on to it, you can almost exhaust yourself in a way that gets you tired of even thinking about this. And I don't mean burnout. I don't mean worrying to the point where you just have no energy anymore. I mean, you're getting exhausted thinking about it in a good way. It's almost like this amplification gets you feeling almost as if you had a good workout, where it's not like you didn't enjoy the workout, but more like, hey, I'm good. And so those are some of the things I noticed with this strategy. Give it a try. Share in the comments if you've ever tried something like this before, or if you can think of other strategies you've done. I also talk about this a little bit in my book too. And so if you do want to check out my book, I've got a link in the description below. And speaking of overthinking and my book, I did mention in the last video that I'm going to be hitting you guys up with another video soon, because I'll be at the beach and I'll be at my favorite place in San Diego, and that's got a special place for me. And I'll be talking about journaling in a future video, and that's again something I touch in the book. And so click on that subscribe button if you want to see those videos coming in the future, and I'll talk to you later.